All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, good afternoon and good morning to some of you. Today, our Collaborative Learning Series class is going to be on the return mail tracker versus the business processing tracker. And note here that we're going to be using the acronym for both tools throughout this presentation. So when you see the RM for return mail and the BPT for business processing tracker, that is what we are referring to. Our outline for the day, we're going to talk about what the return mail tracker is, why it's important, the objectives, our content expert introduction, the expert's process, some examples, best practice, the business processing tracker examples, and the group participation. For those of you that have been a part of our class in the past, we usually go through a get-to-know-you question. We are now replacing that with this map and an introduction of yourself. So for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Dawn Rem, and I am the director of our practice management department. I am located in Michigan, so the top right corner there of the map. One of those red dots is me. On this map, the red pointers are for all of our practice management clients, but for those attending today, they're in yellow. So we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines individually for each of the introductions here, and I have a list of those of you that are participating. As a little icebreaker, I'd like you to go around and have yourself introduce yourself, where you're located, and your position in the practice. I am hoping this will build a sense of community so you can utilize each other as resources in the future. Some of you do not have access, some of you may not have entered your participant code, so I don't have access to unmute your phone lines. If you're having a difficult time with that, go ahead and raise your hand or send us a question or chat. And Peggy Ruby is sitting beside me here and may be able to help you out while we're going through the introduction. So the first one is Dee Schumann. Are you there, Dee? At Dee, you raised your hand, so you're not able to get onto the phone line, so I'll skip to the next one. Georgia, are you there?
Yes.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Would you mind introducing?
So basically, my introduction would be, I would be the little yellow dot there in Dallas, Texas. But really, today I'm located in far west Texas, Lubbock, because we have a home in Lubbock and we travel there, so I'm working from Lubbock today. And then our paraplanner is actually based out of South Carolina. So we're kind of all over the map.
Nice. And can you share with everybody what you do for the practice?
Well, my official title is Client Service Manager. And so I'm married to the advisor, so I've been in the practice for many years. So I've done a lot of things. I'm non-licensed, but I've done everything in the practice except the role of the advisor. So I typically manage the staff also and do the training and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Georgia. Kaylin, you're next.
Hello.
Are you there, Kaylin?
Yes.
There you are. Would you mind sharing with the group where you're located and what you do for the practice?
We're located in Lakeland, Florida, and I'm the client service coordinator.
Great. And we have, Dee, look at, Dee, are you there?
I'm here.
There you are. Got your line open.
Yeah. I'm Dee Schumann, and I am the I don't really have one specific title, but we'll go with marketing manager as of right now. And I am in Fredericksburg, Texas.
So another Texas. All right. And we have Sharissa. Hi, Sharissa. You're really quiet.
Really?
There you are.
There we go. Okay, so I'm in Fredericksburg, Texas, along with Dee, and I am the client service coordinator.
Thank you, Sharissa. Carla, you're up next.
Hello, Dawn.
Hi.
Hi. I'm in Lakeland with Kaylin. We're in the same practice, and I'm the financial planning specialist. I'm partially licensed, I guess.
Yeah, so much. And Marlo.
I'm sorry?
No, I said thank you so much. Hi, Marlo.
Hi, Dawn. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Good. I'm Marlo Russell, and I'm in Port Huron, Michigan, and I'm a client service manager.
Marlo and I are we're located very close to each other, so I am familiar with where Marlo lives. We're up there in that top right corner. Teresa, I also have you on the line, but Teresa, your phone is not working, so I'm at this time I'm just going to scooch past you. But Teresa is also here, and it looks like Lisa just joined us too. So Lisa, I'm going to unmute your phone there. How are you, Lisa?
Hi, Dawn. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. What we're doing here, Lisa, is we're just going through and introducing ourselves, where we're located, and what we do for the practice.
Okay. My name is Lisa Harrison, and I am in Atlanta, Georgia. And I work for High Point Wealth Advisors, Ameriprise practice, and I'm the client service coordinator for our practice.
Great. Lots of client service coordinators and managers here. So,
and I'm new.
Oh, yes, Lisa is new. Welcome to your very first class here, Lisa.
Thank you.
So today's topic, as I mentioned, is the business processing tracker versus the return mail tracker. So what is the return mail tracker? It is a client task tracker. So note, that is the biggest difference between the return mail tracker and the business processing tracker. The client task tracker is for contacting our clients to remind them to send things back in. It's monitoring that document status and aiding in follow-up. That's the reminder. The forms that are tracked, the forms of tracked correspondence are for not only mail, but email, fax, even in person, anything that we're waiting back for from a client. Paperwork from meetings, verbal commitments, including checks and documents, just to name a few. Why is the return mail tracker important? It helps ensure that we receive the information and the documents we have requested from the client. It can keep track and remind the clients of their tasks, and it's an accountability for us. The objective. So what is the goal we wish to accomplish with using the return mail tracker? It is so that clients don't forget to send things back to us. We aren't waiting until the next visit to remember these items, as we have in the past, and it's being proactive. So our this week's content expert is Heidi Wampler, and I didn't have Heidi introduce herself just yet through that map, so I'm going to have Heidi share with us what role you play in the practice, as well as if you could expand just a little bit more than the others, because we're going to be discussing the practice that you work for today. Can you share with the group how the two practices that you are involved with, how they run? Just a brief explanation of that.
Yes. So I am the administrative assistant to my advisor, Ryan Romines, and he is in a practice with another advisor. So there's two advisors that we work independently, but the staff is trained in the same processes. So they use the KMG Connect tracker, and so do we. So if I'm out of the office, they know how to find whatever's going on, and if they're out of the office, I can look and see what's going on with things that need to be processed. It's very valuable as I sometimes work from home, and I am able, of course, to just go into Connect and see what needs to be done or what has been done, rather than, you know, trying to find a trail somewhere because I can't find it because I'm at home.
Great.
So that's kind of what we do here.
Thank you so much. So we're going to talk about Heidi's process with regards to these two tracking tools. I'm going to start with asking the question. So Heidi and I have had a chance to talk previous to this class and to get on the same page with what her process looks like. So I'm going to have her explain some of this, and I'll expand on areas that she may have missed based on our interview. So Heidi, can you share with the group what your process looks like post-client meeting? So after the advisor, and her advisor's name is Ryan, after Ryan meets with a client and he passes off his notes to you, can you just briefly describe that meeting follow-up?
Okay. So once we're done with the meeting, we do the summary, and at that point, that's when Connect comes into play. We start the CMOT, and from the CMOT, we start looking at what else needs to be done. And it goes into basically the trackers. If there's something that we discussed in the meeting that we're waiting for the client, maybe they're going to send us their tax statements, or, you know, maybe their latest mortgage statement. That goes into return mail so that we know that we're looking for it from the client. Business processing, depending on, you know, we're putting it into all of the tabs, and that's what we use it for. And then from there, we go forward as to who needs to follow up with each task. You know, they can look in each one of the trackers.
Mm-hmm. So you gave us a couple of examples of what you would put into return mail. Could you give us a couple of examples of what you would put into the business processing tracker?
So business processing tracker ends up being maybe we're going to be opening a new account, or we're going to be moving money, or whatever action that needs to be done that's going to involve a couple of steps usually. That's where we're going to put it. If my advisor needs to raise funds, maybe because the client needs something, I'm going to put it in there. So that's my reminder, you know, to make sure that he gets it done. Great. So pretty much anything that is not mail winds up in there.
Okay. So something that you had mentioned to me that I wanted to make note for everyone is that Heidi uses two contacts. So when calling a client on the return mail tracker to remind he or she to send something back to us, she attempts to do so 2 times. After that second time, Heidi, how do you use the return mail?
If we haven't heard back from them, I leave it in there, and then the follow-up date then becomes the next meeting date. Then that way, when we are doing case prep and meeting prep, that's something that we see, and it's our reminder to either print out new forms for the advisor to have during the meeting, or just a note depending on what, you know, it is that we're waiting back for, so that the advisor can address it during the meeting.
Great. And then the other point that I'd just like to note is with regards to the SmartPad. So for those of you that are not familiar, any correspondence with the client needs to be added to the SmartPad notes in Contact Manager. So Heidi, when do you do that piece?
So the SmartPad piece comes when I am completely done with the task. And the reason that I do that is that I don't have to have like multiple attach, you know, to SmartPad notes. I keep a running track. I'm just going to use the BPT as an example. Each process that I've done, it shows the date, who did it, what was done. So it's a running track, and then when I'm done, I copy and paste that whole feed into SmartPad, and then that satisfies our, you know, that we have to keep track of everything, but it's just all in one place. Then I don't have to look in several different spots for it on SmartPad. It's all in one run.
Great. You also mentioned something, so just a note here, you mentioned something about how you can refer back months sometimes to the trackers. Is that specifically for one or the other, or for both tools?
I use it for all of them, really. It'll be either be a note, you know, see SmartPad or see Connect. If I'm saving it in SmartPad, my first line item on everything is copied notes from Connect. Then that way anybody else looking at it knows why it's in that kind of a trail, and they can see it. There's times when we've gotten multiple emails, maybe for one process in between. Maybe the advisor is asking, you know, somebody in SPS about something. And so at that point, then I'll just put, you know, see SmartPad for further notes, so that it each correlates. You know, I can find it if I need to.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So yeah, I use it for all of them.
Okay. So a couple of other things to note with Heidi's process. The BPT items include more complex information, and there are still some pending client items, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. Return mail includes more basic information and paperwork that has been mailed or we're waiting on from the client. She does track and check her trackers daily, something that we recommend to everyone. And Heidi, can you explain to the group why you feel this is a see-through process? You used those two words, see-through, when we were talking. Can you explain that to the group?
This is like my Bible. I can see anything and everything that's going on with what needs to be done for the practice. It's very easy to understand, and the notes are detailed, so that if somebody else, maybe there's something my advisor needs to do, he can look in that and see that, you know, I'm waiting for him by using the different follow-up, for the follow-up person. Mm-hmm. We use that for depending on which process is being done. It's nice to be able, I can do the sort by either the description, depending on which tracker I'm in. Maybe I want to see, you know, who we're waiting on for power of attorneys, you know, so I can just do a mass search for that. And because of the way that I save everything in my return mail, I try to assign just simple descriptions, so that I can sort it. And maybe, you know, I'm looking for all the power of attorneys that haven't come back and I need to send a reminder. Yeah. So it's just really nice to be able to just have it all in one place that anybody from the practice can look at and see what needs to be done.
Yes, absolutely. So just as a reminder, with the way that the practice is structured, that Heidi works for, and having those multiple advisors and multiple staff members, different locations at times, they can all refer to Connect. So even more to that see-through process. And Heidi, here I brought up some examples of some return mail entries that you've done. We can use the first two as an example. If you were just looking for attached bank info, you could filter by those items for any client that you are waiting to attach bank info to.
Correct.
So just a couple things to point out here with the way that Heidi takes notes in her return mail tracker. she puts a date in front of the note with her initials. So you'll see most of them are Heidi. Actually, I think all are Heidi.
Yes.
And so that there's a date, her initials, and then the note. The most recent date comes to the top, or is at the top. So you'll see even with that longer note with the first entry there, goes all the way back to 2014 through to 2016. So she can see that there. In the end, the expert's results, so Heidi's results and the benefits of using the return mail tracker, straightforward, which she referred to. It is a reference point, which we referred to, and for the multi-person practice and multi-advisor practice, again, she is able to use the trackers for that see-through process. So now I'm going to switch gears to our best practice recommendation, which is not far off from what Heidi does. But I want to point out just a couple of things and where there may be some differences. So with the best practice for the return mail tracker, we are adding client tasks to the return mail tracker to ensure that there's one place for the administrator to access all incoming correspondence. For those of you that mentioned being client service coordinator, client service manager, client service associate, we refer to you as the administrators at times. And having the return mail tracker accessible to you, you're able to hold yourself accountable to getting these items back from the clients, those tasks. The things that they promised to the advisor, we want to get those back, and so we're going to be proactive in reaching out to them. Something I want to make note here that we did not talk about with Heidi's process, but I am certain she's doing this already. When we receive something back in the mail, please don't forget to update the incoming mail and funds log. That is a compliance requirement. So though we're tracking the mail on the return mail tracker, that is not the compliance place to log that incoming mail. I just don't want anybody to forget about that. So as part of the collaborative portion of this class, we will begin the group participation. We do have the phone lines muted at this time, so we're going to use the raising of the hand feature on the GoToWebinar box that you have. As we go through the discussions and the polls, I would like you to use the hand feature so that we can open up your line when it's your turn to talk. So please raise your hand if you are following a different process than what we have referred to today. And don't be shy. I won't call you out or call on you. And if so, we would like to hear from you to find out if there may be better ways out there. Yep. It appears we have one person that may be following a different process. Actually, looks like two now. So we're giving you the option. If you're comfortable sharing that with us, we'll open up your phone line. If you're not comfortable sharing, then we're going to ask that you maybe type that into the chat box so that we can share that for you. All right, so Carla and Kaylin, would either of you like to share with the group?
This is Carla. We don't use the return mail at all.
Okay.
That was just a decision that was made within the practice.
Yeah, so share with us where you put those items at.
We put it all in business processing, mainly because, kind of as she was saying, there's usually a second step or even third, fourth step after something. So we just figure it's easier to put it there.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. So I just want to let everyone know that the chat feature will always remain open. So if you've been hesitant to answer or are hesitant to answer any of these future questions, please be sure to share with us through that chat box so that we can share with the rest of the group. So our first poll of the day, does your practice know how to differentiate what items go on BPT versus return mail? And so while this is coming up, I just want to remind you that there are some participants that are just learning Connect, just learning what the practice management team recommends. And there are some of you that have been with us for quite some time. So we're going to start with this question. And I'll close that out. It appears 100% know how to differentiate between the two. Wonderful. My next question was going to be, if we had some no's, what items have been causing some confusion and how to differentiate? So it doesn't look like we need to go through that. Before the next couple of polls, I would like to talk about one of the statuses on the business processing tracker. So I know that it's not a status for the return mail tracker pending client info. The return mail description items are more generic and not direct business processing items. And so this is for all pending client information. The return mail tracker is for all pending client information. So we don't have to differentiate here on this tool. However, on the business processing tracker, there is a status for pending client information. And so I used an example here. Notice in this BPT example, the pending client information will result in business to process. So you'll see that though they need to call the client, it is still an example on the BPT. So the next poll, does your team use the pending client info status on the BPT? Okay, this was very mixed, so I'll close that out. 50% said yes, 25% said no, and 25% said unknown. So if we can then open this up for discussion, if any of you would like to share with us why or why not, could you please raise your hand so that we can open up your phone line? Hi, Georgia. Are you a why?
Hi, Dawn.
Are you a why or why not?
The only status we ever use in BPT is in progress.
Okay.
And we just use the notes field. I mean, I went to my BPT. I don't even think I knew there was a BPT status.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at my BPT, I don't get an option. The only option I get is in process.
Oh. I'll make a note of that.
So, but even if I had other options there, I don't know that I have other options there. So we just use in process.
Okay.
And we note, but we also use RMT, return mail tracker, and we notes will carry on. We'll just add to notes if we're working it, if it's in process, we'll just continue to add to notes.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. Kaylin, I'm not sure if your hand was still up from the past or if you did want to, in fact, share here. I just opened your line up.
Oh, I think it was just on still. I didn't know.
Yep. No worries.
There we go.
Thank you. All right, next poll question. And last poll question. Launch this. Has your practice ever had the same item open on the BPT and return mail trackers? Even split here. Oh, one just jumped in. 43% said yes, 29% said no, and 29% are unknown. So for those of you that did say yes, would you mind sharing with us what items you have on both of the tools? And again, we're going to use the same feature. Just raise your hand so we can open up your phone line. And how about if no, can you think of any items which could go in either tracker or cause confusion? And if you can answer this, this may be very helpful for those that are just starting with the tracking tools. If you can remember back to when you may have had some confusion. Heidi, can you remember any times where you may have had some confusion in the past?
It was more just in the training process, but sometimes when we're waiting on data from the client and it's just something that needs to be in the meeting. Mm-hmm. So it'll show up on the return mail, and it's usually with financial planning stuff. So it'll be in the return mail because we're waiting on something from the client, and then it'll be in business processing because it's something related to the financial plan itself, like maybe once we get, I'm going to go back to once we get the mortgage statement, make sure to send it to KMG to update the plan. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would have it in two places that are the most common time.
Okay. And I'd like to make one last note then on this topic, and where there may be room for error, so to be very cautious of this, when waiting to add something to the business processing tracker. So an item that you may be receiving back from a client that would originally start on the return mail tracker and be moved over to business processing after you're receiving it like a signed application, you just need to be careful not to miss that piece and actually adding it as a line item on the business processing tracker. Something to be cautious of. All right, and one of the last questions here, if you could please raise your hand if you have added a preference piece to this process that has made it more efficient or effective for you and or the entire practice. I'll give you a minute to think about that. And again, if there's a preference piece that you may not be comfortable sharing or speaking with the group, you can type it into the chat box so that we can share it with others. Okay, fairly straightforward trackers. So before you go, I just want to let you know that we'll be standing by for questions. So if, for those that will be exiting, please feel free to reach out if you need any additional information through email or my direct line. You will receive a PDF follow-up, which is new. For those of you that have attended in the past, we've not done this before, but that PDF will be a one-pager with our content expert and best practice, as well as resources. There will be a survey sent to you after this class by GoToWebinar. Your feedback is always important to us as we improve each and every class. And don't forget that you are each other's best resources. The more that you share, the more we all learn. So in future classes, as you register, we look forward to having you participate and, again, being the best resource for each other. And lastly, if you have any additional questions or comments that you'd like to make to the group, please go ahead and raise your hand. Otherwise, we will be all set. All right, it appears everybody is all set. Thank you so much for participating and have a good rest of the, oh, wait, sorry, last minute there. Good catch. Oh, we're good, right? Yeah, excellent. All right, we are all set. Thank you again, everybody, for participating, and have a good rest of the day and a happy Easter. Bye-bye.
Bye, Dawn.